You're listening to Remember the Buster with Carlos and Alex.
My name's Alexander Goodrun. I work with Parker Performance. I'm a vivid car enthusiast. Right now, I'm in a 2015 Ford Mustang EcoBoost, and I've been enjoying the eco boom life for 4 years at this point. And she's a beaut. She's white. She's got some gold wheels. She's rice-tastic, and she's putting out some decent power. But ultimate goals, really, I would like to be the first person to really have like a home-built 800 horsepower, 4-cylinder Mustang. Like, that's the title that I want to
earn. That's a lofty horsepower goal, but I definitely possible.
Yep.
Right on, dude. Well, cool. Happy to have you with me on this podcast, man. My name's Carlos Colon, aka Space Dubs. That's how you can find me on Instagram anyways, is @SpaceDubs. And then also for the podcast as well, we have at Remember the Buster Cast. We'll be posting all kinds of stuff about my car, Alex's car, Josh, Parker's car, any Parker Performance news, anything that we come across in our stupidity and endeavors. I also own a 2017 S550 Mustang as well. It's funny you said she's rice-tastic. Mine is a dude. His name is Domo, and I'm just embracing the rice, man. I've only ever owned 4 cylinders before. RX-8s, GTIs, SIs, Integras, Type S's, RSXs. And for me, this car is just an extension of what I enjoy. I actually had a choice between this and the Coyote, and I decided that I wanted the four-cylinder turbo just because I'm more familiar with it, and I know what I'll be getting out of it for the most part. I live in Tallahassee, Florida. Recently just visited the Park Performance crew. They did a fantastic job on my car, adding some extra flair onto it, mostly aesthetics. You can count the springs as performance, really. It drives a lot better now. Outside of that, I work as a paramedic in ER, and I'm just a big car enthusiast who likes to go to car meets here locally. And my goal for my car is for it to essentially be like an American Turbo 4, kind of like an American S14 and S15 build, basically. So I'm
that American flavor out.
What's up?
Bring that American flavor out.
Yeah, man, and that's the thing. I'm not shying away from the fact that it's American. I really, just like I shouldn't shy away from the fact that, by definition, our cars technically are, they're ricey, man. It is what it is. And I can't even call it ricey, really. I think the car was engineered in Europe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So if anything, embracing the Euro beats of the car.
Right.
But as far as goals go, I'm really just going to push for 380 horsepower. I just want a nice, well-balanced wheel, 380. And the idea behind that is just so that way I can daily drive it. My wife can daily drive it without, wrapping it around a tree. And I haven't really decided if I'm going to do meth injection or if I'm going to go ahead and just put auxiliary fuel system on it and do E85 or a larger turbo. So I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll just have the listeners figure it out for me, and then I'll just go along with whatever they say. I'm pretty flexible.
Nothing to do but to do it.
Yeah. So this is our first episode of Remember the Buster. We're just 2 regular guys that really enjoy cars, and the idea behind it is we're going to share some news that we hear about and have been ranting to each other / our significant others, and hopefully give their ears a break.
Sounds good to me.
Right on, man. Did you have any news that you wanted to talk about? I know that right now you said the Geneva Car Show's going on, and it looks like they're making some new announcements here and there.
Yeah, the biggest thing to me is, I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about the Bugatti that was sold for $18 million, but
Yes.
the biggest thing that really took me by surprise, which if we can, when this gets released, maybe put like a link to it. There's a video that Christian von Koenigsegg has out on the new Jesco and transmissions and how the new Jesco is actually being designed, and it's just nerd levels of amazing that the whole suspension setup and the transmission. It's an automatic transmission. It only weighs 90 kilos, which is about 150 pounds, and it has 9 different gears in it.
Wow. So you said 9 different gears. So we can expect an automatic transmission, or are we looking at a dual clutch?
That's another thing. There's no flywheel,
Okay.
and the clutches are integrated into the actual transmission. And again, that's something that you'll see in the video when they talk about that in very great detail. So what they've done, they basically took a conventional CVT,
Yeah.
and they rearranged it. So let's say in a regular 6-speed or 7-speed transmission, you have a certain set of gears, like 2 sets of gears per gear.
Okay.
And what they did, they are actually making it 3 sets. So by essentially having 3 sets per gear,
Okay.
they're allowing all the gears to basically shuffle around. So let's say in a conventional transmission, you need 20 gears. In this transmission, you only need 10.
Right. Right.
So you can have larger gears, which hold more power, but you're still saving weight because you have less gears.
True. The production cost will definitely be cheaper.
Right.
And the price of repairs would likely be cheaper as well. Now, my only problem that I have with these CVT transmissions are that sometimes they try to simulate they try to simulate the number of gears, like let's say a 6-speed transmission, while they're simulating it, and actually dropping revs and raising revs again to simulate the gears that they have, a la the new Toyota Corolla hatchback CVT that they have. It's actually hurting the 0 to 60 time. So, do you think that they're going to do something similar, or do you think that they're going to just embrace the CVT that they're building off of and just allow it to rip?
Well, the way that it's described, basically, again, there's no such thing as a flywheel in this car.
Sure.
And the way that it works, and he was very I don't want to say specific about it, but he stated there was no difference in driving style to the previous transmissions that they've had. He did state that it's going to be a little bit longer of a shift, going from like 1 to 2. But he says, as far as if you were like on the track or on the highway driving, the pleasure of driving the Koenigsegg is not going to be compromised by this new transmission that they're developing.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And
Yeah,
I'm glad.
and I mean,
I'm glad that's what they're planning on doing with it.
yeah, and it's meant to hold 1,600 horsepower on the 85, and it makes 1,200. That is correct. 1,200 on California 91 octane. That is insane.
1,200. That's pretty. That's intense, man. I don't know that the average buyer is going to be able to afford a car like this. That's so funny. Did they give a price sticker, or did they give an idea behind it, like what they're going to be wanting? Is it going to be a prototype, or?
Basically, some of the stuff is based on Agera, which was 2.5 million, and this one's probably going to be between 3 and 4. The biggest thing here is that this is something that, like most luxury cars, eventually will make its way into, the Corollas, the Camrys, stuff like that. And for Koenigsegg to go out of their way and develop their own transmission for their vehicles that is that efficient just speaks volumes on what a manufacturer that is that small can do. And, apparently, like, people like Mercedes may have already been contacting them about getting in on that transmission development.
Gotcha. Yeah, it sounds like they're trying to kind of use it as a springboard to make the average car consumer or automotive consumer experience with their car a little bit better.
Yeah, and with the increasing demand for the emissions, they're also ahead on the curve on that. You got to figure 1,600 horsepower is going to create a lot of emissions. With this development car, which today is what, the March 6, 2019, this particular vehicle, they're stating they can produce until 2026 and still be ahead of emission standards.
They're going to produce it until 2026 and still be so this is something that they're going to be able to squeak into the whole electric green movement that's become a little bit more pronounced over the years.
Right.
Wonderful. So we're not all going to have to drive around electric cars. We can have something that's running off of petrol and it still be viable.
Exactly. Or at this point, even, since it does run on ethanol, you could use that as a substitute.
Oh, even better. Even better. Now we're just running on corn. I'm good with that.
Right.
So yeah, it's going to be running on ethanol, which will produce more horsepower in the long run anyways, because it burns at a different rate than petrol.
Exactly.
Fantastic. What about car news that we have for anything that people could get their hands on, let's say coming up soon, like the recent announcement of the 2019 Jetta GLI? What do you think of that vehicle?
I'm looking at it right now, and it's they have I guess it's the 35th anniversary edition.
Yes.
And it looks fantastic.
It really does.
It looks like the 2-liter turbocharged engine, which they're saying it's supposed to produce 228 horsepower, which seems a little low, but we all know that with Volkswagens, you put your APR or ARP, whichever tune on there, your stage 1, stage 2 tunes that really wakes the cars up.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Volkswagen is known. They're notorious for this anyways. They're notorious for putting numbers out that are actually a modest estimate. They're not really giving you the brake horsepower. They're giving you the wheel horsepower. When the latest, not the latest, but I want to say in 2004 or 5, when they released the whole new, I think it was the Mark IV. They actually rated it at 200 horsepower, but those cars were dynoing at 220 to the wheels.
Okay, I'd actually never thought about them advertising actual wheel horsepower, because if you think about it, like with Ford, with the Mustang EcoBoost, for example, they said it makes 300, but you put that thing on a dyno, it doesn't really do that.
No, nowhere near. But Ford is, they report the brake the brake horsepower. They're giving to the crank. They're not giving to the wheels. Volkswagen for a while now has been giving conservative numbers to I don't know if it's a marketing ploy, because word of mouth, once one person dynos it, all of these other car enthusiasts come out of the woodwork because you're able to get in on a platform that is already producing more horsepower from the factory. And also these motors with these APR tunes and these APR stage kits, these motors are capable of 300 wheel horsepower, which is pretty insane when you think about it, because we're talking just a tune and maybe some supporting mods. So intake, 3-inch downpipe, and maybe an updated intercooler, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of horsepower to these little cars. Plus, this car is absolutely gorgeous. It looks like the anniversary edition comes with a gloss black roof, as well as the red accenting, and it looks like it's got Brembo brakes on it to help stop that car. And then on top of that, you're coming with, it's going to come with all the bells and whistles that you expect from Volkswagen. So likely heated seats, maybe cooled, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, as well as some other creature comforts. So I feel like for me, I would buy that car over the GTI any day.
Well, as far as comfort is concerned, I would definitely agree. I'm a bit more of a hatchback fan. And
Yeah.
when it comes to the GTI used to only be a two-door, and now with them offering them as a four-door as well, I kind of feel like the Jetta really is only there to please the people that like, no, I want a sedan.
Right. Right.
But even looking at it here, especially like in the red color with the LED headlights and the tail lamps, it just looks really clean. And I feel like that's something that Volkswagen is very good at. They will always bring something forward that's appropriate for the time, but it can still have that timeless look. So when you look at it 30 years from now, you could still say, oh, it was definitely a 2020 or 2018, that era type vehicle.
Right. I mean, I'd have to agree. I'm a hatchback fan myself. I like a good sporty looking hatchback, but I am absolutely sick and tired of seeing GTIs on the road. They're like the standard for hatchbacks these days. But they're also the most consistent manufacturer. They're making hatchbacks. They haven't stopped making hatchbacks. You look at Subaru, and they completely killed off their WRX and STI hatchback, which is breaks my heart even talking about it. In favor of the sedan. The Focus RS is gone. The Focus ST is gone. The Fiesta ST is gone.
All dead.
It's so sad. The trade-off is they did just release the Hyundai Veloster N. I don't know if that scratches that hot hatch itch for you, but I feel like for me, it doesn't quite.
No, and the biggest thing with that is that the Veloster N, I feel like, because it has the Genesis 2-liter motor, and it produces like 270, 280 horsepower. At least that's what they're saying. And I just think for a car that's Fiesta sized, it's just too much. Like when I drive the Fiesta ST, even in stock form, that thing is, pardon my French, it's a hoot.
Yeah, a hoot. Yeah, no, that's probably the best way to describe it, though. I mean, it's 190 horsepower and even more torque, and that car is sub 3,000 pounds. So it's moving.
Right, and something like that, I like to compare it directly to a Miata, even though it's wrong-wheel drive. But
yeah,
I would have fun in that car. Any gear shift, it's just giggly like a little schoolgirl. Just
oh, absolutely, and the price sticker is fantastic on that car. I mean, you can get them as low right now as 18, brand new, which is it's great, but again, it's sad they're undervaluing that car so much, and a lot of people do when it comes to Ford in general. Funny thing is we're talking Focus. They just released the new Focus ST numbers that they for 2020. Of course, Ford gave us the big middle finger here in the United States. Love you, Ford. So it's only available in Europe. And it's going to be pushing 270 to 275 now out of that 2-liter EcoBoost. Yeah. So they bumped it up a little bit. I mean, we're not talking a lot, but enough to compete with the new GLI, the new GTI, the Veloster N as well.
Yeah, with the RS being off the shelf, they'll need to do a couple of improvements. Probably a redesign of like the intake, or maybe a bit better efficient turbo, something like that.
So wait. You said the RS off the shelf. Are they not producing the Focus RS in Europe at all anymore?
To my knowledge, the RS is dead. Let me check on that real quick.
Oh, if that is indeed true, folks, I have to say, Ford, you were fucking up so bad.
Well, the RS is supposed to be more like a special car anyhow. We didn't get the previous Gen RS either.
No,
well, this is the first RS I think we've gotten ever.
Yes.
But even those, they weren't in production for quite so long. And yeah, it is dead because if you're familiar with a fellow YouTuber named Shmee150.
Okay.
Shout out to Shmee. He has a regular Ford RS, and then he has a Heritage Ford Focus RS. And the Heritage are some of the, I think it's the last 500 or so. Don't quote me on that number, but it's the last of the manufactured Focus RSs that get that special heritage edition.
Ugh. I just don't. An all-wheel drive hatchback that was quoted as being a barnacle with a turbo, a boosted barnacle in turns by the great Jeremy Clarkson. It just makes me. I feel like the second, the Grand Tour guys, Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May decide that they like a car, they pull production on it. I'm not happy with it. They also did it with the RX-8, although that's like split right down the middle. I like the RX-8. A lot of people don't.
Yeah. And I did just pull that up here, and this is an article from 2018 by Car and Driver.
Okay.
And it states, I quote, Ford Focus RS production in Europe will cease on April the 6th. So that was already last year.
So sad. So yeah, it sounds like they're trying to pump up the Focus ST and make it the tuner car of choice over there, since they're not going to have the RS anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just so sad. Funny thing is that motor may live on in a revamped EcoBoost lineup that they're going to be throwing out in, I want to say it's 2020. It looks like
there.
Go ahead.
There's a couple of interesting things that we'll see by 2020.
Oh, for sure. The most obvious is that they're looking to put the Focus RS motor, if not the motor, that turbo, and beef up the 2.3 Mustang EcoBoost motor a little bit, so that way it's putting closer to Focus RS horsepower down, which would be around 365 from the factory.
Right, which would be, even at that point, let's say we would have the earlier generation guys would have an option to grab that turbo and put it onto the previous model year cars. And so, for example, like right now, my car is pretty much maxed out at 400 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque.
Right.
If I could grab a Ford factory RS turbo that would fit my car, I may be able to get an extra 30, 40, 50 horsepower out of it,
Yeah, absolutely. And now that's barring that they're not going to do any other, because it's my understanding that the block is a little different on the RS versus the Mustang EcoBoost. It's a beefier block. It's able to take a little bit more abuse. The only thing that I would be worried about is, your motor's built, but like a motor like mine, that is completely stock, not built, I would be worried to put that turbo on there and run the greater amount of boost, just because I wouldn't want the dreaded eco boom.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing here. And you only hear about people who have a bad experience. You're not going to hear a happy Ford EcoBoost owner saying, "Oh yeah, I have 200,000 miles on my EcoBoost and it's fantastic." But the biggest thing here is that when the Mustang does blow up, every car has its problems.
Yeah.
But I still feel like it has something to do with the fact that some people may still not understand how direct injection works.
Right.
And then even looking at it for the future, Ford needs to put more effort into the design for their engines. Like, I don't understand why you have the Focus, the Fusion, and the Mustang. They should all have the same block. Why do they all have three different designs?
It's silly. It really is. One would say that they just kind of haphazardly threw motors wherever they threw them, and wherever they landed is how it turned out. Right. I mean, but if they put that twin turbo 2.7 liter V6 in that car, it would be a direct competitor to the GT, and I'm not sure that they're willing to do that.
Well, here's where they're I don't want to say shooting themselves in the Achilles heel, so to say, but the 2020 Explorer is going to be rear-wheel drive, right?
Is it now? Oh, that's right. It is. Yeah.
And it's going to have an EcoBoost engine, which is going to be probably a 2.7 or the new 3-liter.
Right.
And as long as it's rear-wheel drive, somebody's going to find a way to stuff that into a Mustang.
Oh yeah, give them time. if that person was savvy enough and able to actually get a business off the ground of stuffing that motor into said Mustangs, then that person would make a lot of money.
Yeah, just like
Versus
we
Ford,
admitted that new what that 7-liter apparently fits in a Mustang as well. Ford's like, yeah, it'll fit. Go ahead, do it.
well, I mean that's what people do these days, man. When in doubt, throw an LS motor in it or some giant motor and just cut what you need to cut and make it work.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's big things coming out of Ford, but there's also some bigger things, or not bigger, I won't say bigger, but also big things that have recently been announced. One by Ford, the GT 500, which needs no introduction at this point. It looks like a monster. It likely is a monster, and will be running for about. I think the sticker price that they set on it was like, what was it? 70,000 MSRP or something like that. Let me
between 70 and 80, which I'm sure
right
by the time the dealer markup comes out, it's going to be like 120, 130.
Oh, easily. Yeah, absolutely. The dealer markup is brutal from Ford. And they also released the Supra, which also is hotly debated on whether or not it is a direct successor to the last generation of Supras, or if it's just a BMW Supra.
Yeah, I really hope and pray that the Supra is as much of a pleasure to drive as the previous car. And
Right.
a lot of people are saying, you're celebrating a 20-year-old car, you need to move on with the times. But again, the thing is, just like with video games, once you had something great, you need to let it die.
Yeah, you do.
And that's where I think they made a wrong move in that Toyota had a opportunity to bring a new sports car to the world, which like with the FRS or the BRZ, whichever variant you prefer, I still think it's a fantastic car. And when it comes to comparison, your Miatas, your Golfs, your hot hatchbacks, your entry-level sports cars, that car can't be beat. And I feel like that the Toyota should have been that FT1 concept that everybody was drooling over. Like, you had approval on a concept that everybody loved, and you're like, nah, we're going to do something else. That's baffling to me.
I totally agree. They made the concept look beautiful, and then they went ahead and added weight to the car and didn't completely change it, but changed it enough that it did not look the same. They could have just ran with what they had, the FT1. I mean, and maybe there's some, constraints that we don't know about it, just because we're, sitting here yakking in a mic. We're not the research and development team. But if they were able to make that concept work, put it on the road, call it something else, it would have been a better gamble for them. The odds would have been better, because if you use a word like Supra, and let's just say you label a car the Supra, the new Supra, you're already setting yourself up for failure, because there's absolutely no way that you can recreate the magic that happened with the later models, the earlier models.
And I agree to some point. I understand that Yamaha had a involvement in producing it to Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of people are saying, well, then they should call it a Yamaha Supra or anything like that. But my biggest beef still is that BMW is BMW. And while I love the cars while they work and they have a warranty, once stuff starts to break, I'm sorry, it's just not cheap to maintain. And for Toyota to say, hey, let's start carrying these parts, unless Toyota decides to maybe make the replacement parts themselves to bring the cost down, because that's something we've seen before where, different manufacturer, one manufacturer, let's say for a crank bolt, you pay $50 and bet the other one you pay 30. That could be something I could see in the future. But again, when you say BMW, you think money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And some would argue that if you're buying this car, you're going to have the disposable income. To them, I would say I disagree, sir. And the reason why is they're marking this car at $50,000 MSRP. Okay, that is not terrible. So, and we know that Toyota doesn't necessarily mark up a car just to exorbitant, lengths like Ford does. Let's say where the Focus RS was a $35,000 MSRP car, but they would mark it up to 50 or so. Likely, you're going to see these coming out of the dealership for a modest markup, and it's going to be something that people are going to be able to slap $5,000 to $10,000 down on, and not have a terrible payment.
Yep.
So,
and again, like most cars, you can buy an SUV or anything really. Like a new car, you're looking starting at 35, 40 grand anyway. So that extra 10 grand, really, it's nothing.
It's not much of a difference. Maybe for the hardcore penny pincher, but for the motor enthusiast or the casual enthusiast, it's not a huge leap to say that they would buy it. And then on top of that, once they do buy it, I think Toyota owes it to their consumer base.
Right.
Hopefully it comes with a fantastic warranty. As far as other cars that they just announced, I know that the Toyota Corolla hatchback has just come out, and that's something that people have taken to already. I've seen a few on the road, quite a few.
The new hatchback.
It's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And the motor itself is, in my opinion, pretty impressive. A 2-liter dual port injection. It's fantastic. High compression motor, naturally aspirated. I think it's a matter of time before you start to see some performance modifications coming out for that vehicle.
Yeah, the only thing that I really miss about these things here with Toyota is, again, there's no more performance division.
No.
And which, it makes sense. But like this one, for example, it starts at, let's call it what it is, $20,000. You get, your up to 38 miles per gallon. It reminds me somewhat of the Mazda 2. But again, seeing these cars on the road, that when I first saw them, I don't want to say starstruck, but mesmerized. Like, that is a Toyota? And that's a Corolla? Like, what?
Yep. With that wing, that aggressive wing, and the front fascia, as well as even what they did with the rear door, it is an absolutely beautiful car that I think is going to be around for a while. The only thing is, I wish it was rear-wheel drive, like Frederick Asbo's drift car.
Yeah.
That if it was rear-wheel drive, folks, we would have a legitimate recreation of the Torino 86 that is made famous by Initial D. We really would.
Yeah, but I would not disagree with that. And again, touching on that, the design of it all, even like looking at the exhaust, even if the rear vents are fake, it's just you have the LEDs up front, you have the right curvature. Like, there hasn't been a cheap car that looks good from the factory in a while. And I think this one ticks all the right boxes as far as a fun hot hatch is concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I think I would call it like a lukewarm hatch. High compression motor, it's fun to drive. Will it directly compete with, GTIs, the Veloster Turbo, or the N? No, not so much. But it has the potential once somebody figures out how to squeeze more horsepower out of that motor.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you heard that Honda has moved their production of the Type R to the United States.
Really?
Yes. Which bodes very well for people that maybe couldn't afford it right out the gate and have been pinching pennies. It seems like if they're going to move production here, they're going to continue to make it.
That sounds correct.
What did you think about the Type R?
I have not had the pleasure of driving a tape bar yet.
Mhm.
However, I have seen and touched and felt them. It sounds a little dirty, but
Sounds a little creepy.
the thing here is, and like, it's a very, to me, well accepted car. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's a Honda," but here's the thing: you have younger people that want the Civic Type R, and then you have people like my 60-year-old mother who saw the car and he's like, "Oh, this looks great, and it's manual. Oh, they still make manuals cars." And you wouldn't think a person like that would be able to relate to somebody like us. But
Right.
again, this comes back to the point that the people that are, getting near retirement now, they're, especially my mom, because she's European, this is a lot of old school European styling from the factory. Back
Yes,
then,
yes.
the Volkswagen Scirocco's, they had giant spoilers, they had flared wheel arches.
Sure.
And Honda's like, look, you want this stuff? Okay, here you go. Here's
Here
your
you go.
car.
Yep,
Go racing.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I feel like they've been very successful with this vehicle as far as a marketing standpoint, mostly because they didn't really push a whole lot of marketing. It seems like the vehicle itself gained a bit of notoriety via word of mouth, and also reviewers on YouTube and automotive channels as well, and the fact that it did such a fantastic time in the Nürburgring. Um, the car itself is, it's amazing. You have an electronically adjustable suspension. You have auto rev matching. Although I think if I had it, I would probably just turn that off. That's half the fun.
Yeah.
And then you have fully functional aerodynamics. You have aero on the car that are actually serving a purpose. And it's a front wheel drive car, which is something that like myself and you as well, we prefer a rear wheel drive car. But for a car like that, I'm okay with it. It's a track car. It's not a drag car.
Yeah, and dude, the thing is that it feels when you're sitting in it, even in the back seat, you feel so planted when it goes around corners. Like I said, I haven't had the pleasure of driving it, but
Yeah.
even just sitting in it, it's like a go-kart, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Honda's done a really good job with that. And the fact that they had been producing it in the UK prior to kind of making Americans mouth water for that vehicle, and then they released it here, and they did it in a limited run. They don't mass produce them,
Right.
which is helping their dragging behind. Again, listeners, correct me if I'm wrong here. But the fact that it is coming to the United States now, it makes me very happy, makes me very giddy. In fact, that may be the new grocery getter that we end up rolling in a year or two. But that's just me. Would never get rid of Domo though. Other than that, any other cars that that they have just announced that would tickle our fancy?
Let's see here. Mercedes just released a new A-class shooting brake.
Okay.
And that is something that I'm very excited about. I love it's not just a love for luxury cars, but old classic stuff like shooting brakes, wagons. Nobody can tell me anything about a CTSV, and if it's a wagon, I'm like, okay, sign me up.
There's something about a wagon moving down the road really fast. It's alarming. It's like seeing I don't know, like a really giant lineman who's moving super fast on the football field. They're just valuable.
Yeah, and it's something, again, the look of it, I don't even know how to explain it. Even with the shooting brake, I suppose, more than the wagon, because it doesn't look like a wagon, but it's supposed to be a wagon. So you're like, what are you? And it still looks good.
Right, right, right. As long as it looks good and it's endearing, that's the big thing. I wouldn't mind questioning every day what it is then.
And the cool thing is, for this one in particular, it's still an A class. So it's the bottom of the mill, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
And it has, oh, actually, holy cow. I'm looking at the specs here. It's an AMG CLA 45 shooting brake.
Okay.
Comes with 475 newton meters of torque from a 2-liter inline turbo. That's a lot of torque.
Absolutely. Torque is kind of the name of the game in an automotive industry. So if you could produce some good low end torque, the buyers will eat it up.
Yep. And then again, that overall design is just classic Mercedes. And this is something, again, talking about, being able to afford certain things. This would still be in that category. You're probably looking at 60 to 70,000 for ownership.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, if you're looking at a, spec'd out Jeep, I don't know, Grand Cherokee, you're probably in that same area.
Absolutely. Very easily. I mean, and it's a better car. No offense, Jeep. I just would never buy you. Speaking of design, another manufacturer, not as big as Honda or Mercedes, Mazda is set to release 2 new vehicles. So the first one being the redesign of the Mazda 3 with the new Skyactiv 10 engine or X, which is a plugless or sparkless motor. So it doesn't have spark plugs. It's going to create combustion just with compression and angles, much like an airplane motor or a jet motor. And then they're also going to release the CX-30. I don't know if you saw that. That was very recent.
Let's see. The CX-30, I see it here.
Which looks just like a CX-3, just a little more aggressive.
Yep.
But it's my understanding that it's a little bit larger than that.
Like back to, what is it? Like CX-5 size, or a little bit like between the CX-3 and the CX-5.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more in between, and which is kind of weird that they would name it the CX-30. I'll have to do some research into why they picked the 30 instead of it just being some arbitrary number. But America has an infatuation with crossover SUVs, and I think Mazda is not ashamed to scratch that itch with a CX-3, a CX-30, and a CX-5. Oh, wait, and a CX-9.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Well, yeah, the CX-9, which I was wondering where their big passenger car is, but the CX-9 is their 7-passenger, right?
Yes, that's the large one that does offer a turbocharged motor.
Ooh.
And all-wheel drive. I'd like to see Mazda do something a little bit more aggressive with the new Mazda 3, though. I feel like that Sky X motor itself has the ability to be something very special, considering it's a brand new motor and something that will be a new platform to work off of as far as tuning goes. And the fact that it has an emergency spark plug, one, in case it does need to create spark.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, it's revolutionary. It's something that, like we were talking about before, that will likely fly under the radar amidst all of the green, pushing and movement.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing again with Mazda. They have a way with, let's just say the rotary, for example. They come up with ingenious things, and it's either that they're unfortunately just a tad too late, or that the appreciation for it just isn't there. But this is something, you have that ultra high compression, and that's something I see them putting into their maybe their smaller production vehicles just to exceed that. Let's say they can get 45, 50 miles per gallon out of an 87 octane fueled car that's the size of a Toyota Corolla. In the UK and in Europe, you get 50 miles per gallon, but it's a car that's the size of a shoebox.
Right. And, as fun as driving a shoebox around, is, proven by the Fiesta ST. The average consumer wants something that's a little bit larger.
Yeah, that's the trend anyhow.
Yeah, obviously, the crossovers. Hatchbacks also have increased in popularity in the United States to the tune of something around 10% increase in demand for them. So I'd be surprised if Subaru doesn't re-release a WRX hatchback.
I could see that, especially now with all of the other ones basically being killed off. It would be that there's a market that is being, I don't want to say not tapped, but there's nothing there anymore when going through the manufacturers as far as a performance hatchback would be concerned, besides, again, the Golf, but that's it.
Well, I think that's what Hyundai was trying to do with offering three different Veloster levels, the N, the Turbo, and the just basic Veloster. I think they're hoping to kind of fill the void that, the Focus and the Fiesta are going to leave behind it in the market, since most American manufacturers are not going to be manufacturing the grocery getters anymore, the sedans or the hatchbacks at the same level that they were before.
And I totally agree. And the funny thing is, the Veloster always skips my mind. And I don't know why. I don't, obviously it should be up there, especially the Veloster N. But if you were to talk to me about hatchbacks, that would never be like, oh yeah, there's a Hyundai that's a hatchback. That's the thing that I don't know if it's because the Genesis left a sour taste in my mouth, or if I'm just overall disappointed, because we have a Kia Sportage Turbo in our garage. However, again, when you're asking me about the Veloster, I can't tell you the last time I've actually seen one in person, for example.
Yeah, you're not seeing a whole lot of them on the road, which is surprising to me. I was just for shiggles searching on Auto Trader to see, what the Veloster N is going for. And you're able to catch one for between 26 to 27,000. So that's a 3-door, technically a 4-door, if you're counting the rear hatch. But that's a hatchback, a turbocharged hatchback that's got electronically controlled suspension, auto, rev matching, heated and cooled seats, all the bells and whistles, and is quite a bit lighter than a lot of its competitors, and is producing 270 horsepower for 26 to 27,000. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and like I said, again, I feel like it's going to be a handful to drive, but they have an electronic differential in them as well, right?
As far as I know, yes, they do come with a diff.
Yeah, that'll probably help a lot as far as durability is concerned.
Absolutely. The funny thing is, though, is no one's talking about it. No one's talking about that car in relation to the other vehicles that are out in the market or that are soon to be out in the market.
Yeah, and that's, again, like I said, when you were talking about it, we brought the car up early in our conversation, and again, it left my mind just as quickly as we brought it up.
Yeah, I don't know if that's due importance on Hyundai's lack of marketing of the vehicle, but I mean, maybe they need to take a note from their sister company and throw some hamsters in it and do something to let it stick out in people's minds. It's a fantastic car at a fantastic price point. Other than that, I'm not sure if we have any other reveals that are screaming out to me. Which brings us to the next portion of our podcast here, where we basically discuss what has been going on in our lives, modification wise or otherwise. I hear recently you were invited to a car show, Clean Culture, over the weekend, this past weekend, Sunday, correct?
That's correct.
How did that go for you?
Well, it was a huge event, which was an amazing experience to be part of. Usually, I'm not a big car show guy, but ever since having the blessing and pleasure of being part of Parker Performance, the overall experience has been quite different from what I'm personally used to. And of course, with the RTR Spec 5 being in our arsenal, of course, car shows are a must, not only to represent for the sponsors, but also represent for the company. And I mean, there were things out there that I don't even know how to explain it. It's just something I would love to get you in touch with my good friend Ricardo. He's a photographer that we use, and maybe if you can link some pictures in, something like that. They had so many amazing vehicles there, and everything was a little different, you know? Like, we brought the Mustangs and Zach's 180SX, but let's say out of the Mustangs, there were 10 S550s there, and not a single one looked the same, and they all brought their own unique flair to it. And it was just the experience, the whole, let's call it an aura. You know, everybody got along. Everybody was googly-eyed everywhere. Nobody was acting stupid or doing things they shouldn't be doing. There was one guy that broke his car because he was acting like a fool, but that's karma at the end of the day. But I'm very, very impressed, and I'm very happy we got to go to Clean Culture, because I tell you what, man, you go to car meets, there's always some form of small issue, and that whole crew, they handled it professionally, and everything went as smooth as possible. Everybody was nice and friendly, like it was legit.
Fantastic, man. Yeah, I'm sad that I missed out on seeing how awesome that was. If it was even a fraction of the meet that you brought me to, which was by the way, not a small meet. Your words exactly were, oh, it's a small little meet that happens on Thursday nights. And I show up to this meet, folks, and there are at least 100 to 200 people that showed up to this event at this bar and grill. So if Clean Culture even comes close to that, I'm definitely I'll definitely have to see if I can elevate Domo's status, so that way I can get an invitation at some point in the future.
Yeah, man, I think like the way you got to look at it is, if you thought that our weekly meet was big, Clean Culture was at least, and I'm not joking you, 10 times that much.
That's so dope, man. That's so dope, especially when you can be a part of something that is planned out so cleanly. No pun intended, Clean Culture. But the fact that it is makes it, kind of back in the day, Nopi Nationals huge.
Exactly, and that imagine it being that way. Like imagine like it's 2006. You know, you're going to Race Wars, and they have that giant shot up in the air and just a ton of cars.
Yeah.
When we left, which Zach and I left a little early because we were there since 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I kid you not when I tell you, when I got home, I drank at least 3 gallons of water. That's how dehydrated I was.
Oh yeah, no, I believe it. I absolutely believe it.
So the show was at the Spurs Stadium in Orlando.
Okay.
And by the time we left, just including the people that attended the show, as far as the people that got inside the show, okay, that was a parking lot and a half, including the entire stadium being full. Wow. By the time we left, the spectator parking, dude, like the entire parking lot was full. You could not walk in the show. That's how many people were there. That's children, impressive. Grandparents, old people, young people, black, white, yellow. Everybody just Googling. There was not a single person that looked at the RTR and didn't have their mouth open wide.
Well, that RTR commands a lot of respect anywhere it goes, to be honest. But that's fantastic, man. I'm really happy. That's big for Parker Performance, big for you as well. It's something that I'm sure once you're invited to, you will have repeat invites to. Barring you Marceline doesn't knock on wood, bite the dust. But that's fantastic, man. Happy for you guys. Congratulations. I'm sure there's going to be nothing but big things in the future. I was telling Josh that I'm surprised that there is not a TV show on Motor Trend that is just about the day in, day out of Parker Performance, because what you guys have created there is something truly magical.
We greatly appreciate that, and I do try to make important videos. It's just doing things every single day, especially with the way like YouTube and everything is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a struggle. And again, I'm not nowhere near my professional. And when I work on certain projects, I want them to look a certain way.
Sure.
And if I have, if 3 shots are just completely wrong or the audio is incorrect, that discourages me a lot.
Oh yeah,
So
I bet.
why like certain things haven't been uploaded as much as I should. Like the last thing we did was a big brake kit install, and even then, there are errors in there that I want to kick myself in the butt for. But again, that's a video that had to go to the public no matter what.
Yeah.
As time progresses, as our budget or my personal budget, I suppose, increases, and I, get with some other people about editing and stuff, things will get better and it will be more of a professional base.
Sure.
For example, I'm sure you've seen the yellow car, correct?
Yes, Ducky.
Like that's something I want to document in a TV type documentary style to, from start to finish of that turbo kit install, because it's going to be, a big thing, not just for Parker Performance, but for the owner having a twin turbo V6 Mustang. You don't see that every day.
No, you really don't. You really don't. You see them using forced induction, but you don't typically see them with a twin turbo setup. That thing's going to be hauling some serious ass.
Yeah, I mean, even on the stock block, the guy that hooked us up with the person that's making these custom kits, they basically said, look, stock block, you're looking at 500-600 horsepower all day. And then if you were to go, forged internals, you're talking thousands. So
that's fucking insane, dude. Absolutely insane. Because then traction is going to be the biggest issue.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, that's a good problem to have, man. Absolutely good problem to have. But the editing will come along. I'm new to this as well. I've recently been toying around with doing some more intense editing with some of the photos that I've been uploading to Instagram. And I'm pleasantly surprised of how they're turning out. For some reason, I love photoshopping my car into Japan, into Japanese backgrounds. Next is going to be Mount Fuji in the background for sure. And this whole endeavor with the podcast, I'm just happy to actually be doing it now. Something that I've been trying to get off the ground for a long time. And, I needed somebody else that was as motivated to get something like this done as me. And I definitely feel like I found it with you, Alex. We'll definitely be able to hopefully record, hundreds of these and get those out. But I guess we could wrap things up with the random, stupid, amazing question of the day. Let's start with just the absolute basic. Probably the one question that all car guys ask each other at any meet, and that's, if you had unlimited money, which 3 cars would you put in your garage? But you could only have 3.
Only 3.
Only 3.
I would have a Lexus LFA.
Okay.
That car to me is just, even without a cup holder, it is just amazing.
Okay.
I would need to have a Ford Raptor.
Okay. So you'll be able to haul some stuff around. Cool.
Exactly. And
fast.
Ooh, what else? I think it would have to be either a Mazda RX-7 FD, or would have to be a 996 Porsche 911.
Woo! Well, I was wondering if you were going to throw a Porsche in there. Okay, so I mean, you got to pick, man. Out of those two cars, which one?
I'm going with the Porsche.
The Porsche. Okay, solid pick. You got to have a Porsche in the garage.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I'd say that I'd have to say that I would want a Porsche 911 GT3 RS is going to be my pick. It's modest, 513-ish brake horsepower. I'm happy with that. A 1995 NSX Type R, because I'm a JDM fanboy at heart. And my last pick would have to be something. Oh, this is tough, man. This is so tough. 3 cars is tough. It really is.
Well, you don't need a truck, because you can just call me for the truck.
Right. And I do not need a truck. I don't know that I can own a truck, honestly. Like, they're nice, the Raptors are beautiful, but there's something about it that I just can't. It's not me. But I guess my third car would have to be a something real basic, something that I love and have always loved, and that is a 1999 Acura Integra Type R. And the only reason being is I just love those cars. My first car was an Integra LS. And of course, I did what every kid did back in the Fast and Furious days, which was rice the living piss out of it and slam it to the ground, and for me to be able to relive that tuning pleasure only with something that's actually got some balls, I'd love it.
Yeah, and especially with the GSR, that my friend had one of those, and that was another like pinnacle before the Turbo Civic Type R. Like having an Integra GSR, that would be like, especially in championship white or that yellow color that they come in.
Yes, the yellow. I think that was solely to the. They had a Type R. It was a yellow that went with the Type R, but they do have that championship white, which is absolutely beautiful, and you would see on all their spoon vehicles, with the bronze wheels to match. The Mugen bronze wheels, and I'd be in hog heaven, man. Happy as a clam.
Right.
Well, cool, man. If anyone else wants to participate in the random stupid question of the day, by all means, add them in the comments and add your answers in the comments. Question again is, if you had unlimited money and you could only buy 3 cars, which 3 cars would you purchase to put in your garage? Leave them down in the comments below. And stop back in and see us. Hopefully we'll be able to get another episode out next week. And hopefully I'm going to try to get these edited and released no later than Thursday or Friday of every week. And if I can bump that production time up a little bit to earlier in the week, then it'll be Mondays. But other than that, how can we find you? How can the people find you, Alex, out in the social media world?
We are on Instagram, Parker Performance. My personal handle is Alexander Goodrun. And of course, you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Parker Performance is the way to go. And from there, if you ever have any personal questions, you can just message us there, and we'll be more than happy to help you out.
Fantastic. And you can find me on Instagram at SpaceDubs, SpaceDubs. Or you can follow the show, Remember the Buster Cast, on Instagram as well, under the name Carlos and Alex. Looking forward to interacting with all you guys, and hopefully we will get back with you soon. Same time, same channel.
I would rather walk across a sea of Legos than own an automatic.